You're listening to a Soul One podcast. And we are recording. Welcome back, Nicole.
Thank you so much, as always, for letting me run my mouth on this show.
You said to me prior to recording, you're like, oh, sorry, my voice is a little raspy. It kind of, it sounds cute.
Oh my God, thank you so much. I'll tell Pikachu about it. I was screaming at him.
Nicole was at a Pikachu dance party, and I didn't think that there was enough Pokemon music was Pikachu the characters were at the club?
Yeah, so a whole bunch of drag queens dressed up as Pokemon, and there was a huge Pikachu that was in an inflatable, somebody was in an inflatable costume, and all the music was from whenever Pokemon came out in North America. I think it was the 2000s, so it was a lot of 2000s music.
That's fun.
Early 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I felt old because I was like, I need to leave. This is not for me.
This is my childhood. What are you doing? Why has my childhood become your
culture?
Yeah. That's funny. Okay, so for people who don't know, this is You Had Me at Skip It. I'm Taylor. My normal co-host, Mike, continues to be on his sabbatical for the arts community. I realized the way I phrased that makes it sound so he's having a sabbatical from the show so that he can contribute to the arts community. Because I guess in a way, this is the arts community. We are the arts community, Nicole. This podcast.
We sure are. We're contributing. We're contributing deeply.
So I want to remind everyone, last week I mentioned it when Katie was on, our Oscar ballot is live. You can access it at soulonearts.ca/podcast. That's SOLONEARTS.ca/podcast. soulonearts.ca/podcast. And if you scroll down, you'll see a form, I guess you could describe it as, and you can go ahead and enter your ballot picks, who you think is going to clean up at the Oscars, and then whoever gets the most right gets to produce an episode of You Had Me at Skip It, or you get to spotlight as a co-host. And we also have a prize for someone who gets the lowest amount correct, because one year we did have someone who got 0, which again, statistically, I feel
that's so impressive.
Yeah, that's why we're you get a prize. That's amazing. And the prize is the same. You get to either come on the show or you get to produce a show. Essentially tell us what you want us to talk about. So I'll remind everyone at the end of the episode, this episode will be coming out because Nicole and I are a bit of time travelers. We're recording this in advance. The Oscars are Sunday, March the 15th, and this comes out just the Thursday before. So this is kind of your final reminder to please get your Oscar ballots in. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting night based on how awards season has been going so far. So, Nicole, we have one fan question.
Stunning. And
I'm actually really happy that Tayson wrote back in, because I very rudely did not thank them. Their original question from last week was, I can't believe it's been nearly 8 years of listening to you guys talk about movies. And I was a big ogre, and I didn't thank Tayson. Thank you for being along for the ride for 8 years. The fact that you continue to listen to Mike and I's madness and, Nicole and Katie and Tyler and all the rest. Thank you for being along for the ride. We really appreciate it. So I'm so glad you wrote back in, because I was going to thank you, Tayson, and I owed you an apology, but you wrote back in. So great. Excellent. So this is what Tayson wrote, Nicole. Is Mike dead? How long has Mike been dead for? Can you do an episode where, in quotations, Mike and Taylor review Weekend at Bernie's, but there's a glitch with Mike's audio, so all we can hear is Taylor talking and responding to things that Mike supposedly said, but we can't hear it. Tayson.
Wow, that's so meta. I'm so into it.
I'm not that great of an actress. I think we would actually have to record an episode with me talking to someone and just not include that audio file. I don't think I could have a one-sided conversation that way, pretending I'm talking to Mike. Tayson, Mike is not dead, as far as I know, at least as of like last week. How long has he been dead for? Well, he's been dead to this podcast, metaphorically, since like mid-January. I think he'll be back soon. I'm confident. I'm hopeful that he'll be back after Easter. I'm planning on taking just a 1-week Easter break, Nicole. I haven't told Mike that yet. But I'm hoping Mike will be back after Easter. Any thoughts about that, Nicole?
I believe there was, listen, Tayson, I would also like to thank you because I'm also glad that Mike and Taylor have been doing this for 8 years. And what an 8 years that has been. That. And number 2, I believe I probably about 8 weeks ago texted you to ask you if Mike had died.
That's true.
So, you know what? Good for Mike. The fact that it's so hard to disappear in 2026, the fact that he's doing such a good job of it, I think is really cool.
Yeah, it's great. And I'm very happy for his side pursuits, his side quests, but I would like my co-host back. Not that I don't love Nicole and Father Quirk and Katie, but it will be nice to get back to regular programming. I think, and I don't want to put words in Mike's mouth, but when I took my little hiatus, I wouldn't call it a sabbatical, when I had my hiatus in, I believe, 2022, Mike did tell me, like, okay, when are you coming back?
I remember he was messaging me like, oh man, I can't wait for Taylor to come back. It's so much work.
It is. It's weird. I love having you on, Nicole, and I love all of my irregular co-hosts that come on, but there is something, I don't know, I guess like Mike and I hit the sweet spot, and I'm like gonna give flowers to Mike, and I never do. We somehow hit the sweet spot, him and I. We literally were complete strangers. He said, when we originally were on college radio, I said, hey, I want to do a movie podcast. And they went, oh, well, this other guy wants to do a movie podcast. Why don't you connect with him? We had one meeting and we're like, okay, let's try it out. 8 years later, we're still podcasting together. It really is like, we just, for complete strangers, we have some sort of magic when it comes to podcasting.
You really do. You are very divisive co-hosts, like in a good way.
I think we complement each other well. Okay, to Tayson's other question about reviewing Weekend at Bernie's. This is so funny because I don't think we've said this on air. Father Quirk has toyed with the idea of coming on to do a Weekend at Bernie's for like a summer episode. And I have a I have a coworker who is dying for me to review Weekend at Bernie's because I've never seen it, Nicole.
Neither have I.
Yeah. So,
but it's culturally so relevant.
Apparently. So. And every couple of weeks she'll be like, my coworker, have you seen Weekend at Bernie's yet? I'm like, no. I got other content I need to make first. But maybe it won't be Tayson's meta episode. I guess, Tayson, here you go. If you win the Oscar pool, either having the most or least amount of correct ballot entries, you can get your wish. We will do a one-sided Weekend at Bernie's episode.
I always feel like Weekend at Bernie's and The Big Lebowski, like I get them mixed up.
Weekend at Bernie's is the one with the dead boss.
Dead guy.
Yeah.
I know, but even so, I'm like, oh, it's just dudes doing dude things.
And
you know what I mean?
The Big Lebowski has the bowling. I've seen The Big Lebowski. I cannot tell you what that movie's about.
It is so long.
He gets confused for an actual criminal, right? That's the premise of the movie?
Yeah. He gets, like, involved in some... I feel like... Yeah, he gets involved in some kind of nefarious something in Los Angeles. And there was a movie with Austin Butler, now that I'm just thinking about it. I feel like they kind of ripped it off. Have you heard of this movie, Caught Stealing? It's on Netflix.
No, it came out, I think, last year, 2025.
Yes. And as I was watching it, I was like, oh my gosh, it's like the New York version of...
The Big Lebowski?
Big Lebowski, which it is because, like, the Big Lebowski is so distinctly Los Angeles.
That's kind of fun. I know people are a little bit divided on Austin Butler. I think because he's, like, relatively early in his career as, like, an adult actor. I have only seen him, I guess, in Elvis. I thought he was phenomenal in Elvis. What's the hullabaloo of Austin Butler? Do you think enough, in the sense that has enough time passed? Because I was just messaging with someone about Timothée Chalamet, and because he had some very controversial comments that came out last week. Did you see these?
His parents are ballet dancers. I don't understand why he's going off on opera and ballet.
Okay, so for people Sorry to interrupt, Nicole.
Like a shoe. Sorry.
Like a shoe. I know that point. Everyone thinks he looks like the medieval pointy shoe, which I don't really get the comparison, but I've seen the memes of it. So for those who don't live chronically online, even though Nicole says she's not chronically online anymore, she's kind of up to date on the hot goss.
I know.
But for someone who is truly chronically online, Timothée Chalamet has been promoting something. I think he was on a interview or a podcast with Matthew McConaughey. And now people are, doing the little sound clips, like editing it. And he said, essentially along the lines of, he is like really passionate about supporting cinema because people actually go out to see it. Whereas he really doesn't understand these art mediums that are kind of kept afloat that are essentially dying. And he specifically mentioned opera and ballet, which I think is so hilarious because Katie Wilson, anyways, I think she even mentioned, I got in trouble once for giving identifying characteristics about Katie Wilson. But anyways, she works in the arts community, so that's her connection. But I think that's just, and you trained in opera. So you feel this personally. So anyways, so this is all the backstory. That was the headline. He's making a lot of news because he specifically called out ballet and opera, which was like very uncalled for, poor ballet and opera. And the fact that his parents are ballet stars or ballet dancers, that adds insult to injury. So I was texting with a friend, or messaging, with a friend. And I posted the little meme about it was just silly, like, you're calling this a dying art form? And it was like a cartoon of mice doing ballet. And she wrote back, I've always hated Timothée Chalamet. I'm so glad that people are just finally getting on the bandwagon. And so I feel like, so that was all this is going to go back to the Austin Butler question I have for you. That was all the background. Because, the tide is now turning on Timothée Chalamet. He was kind of like, everyone thought he was going to be the new hot thing. He was in a bunch of artsy movies. Now apparently he's trying to illustrate that he's actually like a box office actor, whatever, right? And now people are kind of openly hating on him. And I know you have hated on him a little bit for several years as well. So Austin Butler, I feel like the discourse about Austin Butler was more like, let's wait and see. Is he going to be a doofus? Because with the whole accent stuff, that was like the biggest thing, being like, he's such a nerd. Like, why does he keep that accent? But I also feel like he was early enough in his career that people were like reserving openly hating for him. So anyways, you having seen this movie that seems like The Big Lebowski in New York, what is your take on Austin Butler? Do you think we're going to see more open hate of Austin Butler, or do you think he will have a more traditional career trajectory where people are just going to support him and like follow his career?
That's such a good question. I feel like the OG hate for Austin Butler was the fact that he was just doing so much method acting stuff, and
it was corny.
Yeah, and we like really hate method actors, which is so funny. And I love it when method actors get ripped on. Said with love, it's just so funny. But I do think that Austin Butler, I don't think that he's hit, because I feel like he did Elvis. We were kind of expecting him to take the like blockbuster movie star trajectory. He really didn't do that.
Right.
And I kind of love that. And I don't think that I've seen him in, I think he might have been in Dune, and he did such a good job.
Yeah,
And
he's the villain, I think.
Yeah, and he like looks very scary. I don't know, his face is like so striking.
I think they really leaned in or lent into his like his bone structure to like,
Yes.
because he's also bald, right? They make him bald in that movie.
Yes, it's very jarring. And then in this movie, Caught Stealing, he is so lovable. It was so funny. We were watching it. I was like, oh my gosh, this little cutie. I mean, he's got such a beautiful little face. And
Yeah, he's pretty adorable.
yeah, and his character is very endearing and sweet and like, you know, sweet ding dong. And he just has the perfect face for it. So TLDR, I don't think that like, I think that he's going to do the thing where he's under the right, doing all the indie stuff. You know, you do the big things every few years to fund doing the smaller things. And then that's what I think he's doing. Like, I think he's like about the art.
Yeah, and I feel I think people will openly hate him when he does the corny art stuff, like the method acting. Or I could see, because that's another thing that has really ticked people off with Timothy Chalamet, is he does the, oh my gosh, the actor that I don't like very much. He was in Silver Linings Playbook with Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, Bradley Cooper.
Yes. I feel like, and that's what Timothy Chalamet is pulling a Bradley Cooper this year, where he's promoting so hard for him to get the Oscar. And like last year, people were like, game, respect game. He's at the top. Like, he's one of our top actors. Like, I respect that he's hustling so hard for his award. But this year, I feel like the discourse has turned on him, and it's actually annoying now about how obsessed he is with winning an award. So I feel like as long as Austin Butler stays humble, does his thing, maybe sometimes we're going to make fun of him for keeping his accent. Yeah. But if he just, I find these conversations quite fascinating. Why the public globs onto one actor and then so quickly, because I feel like it's literally been within a year that the Timothy Chalamet discourse has shifted.
Well, and he also got a lot of flack for ripping on an actor. He said he was talking with another actor in an interview, and he said something along the lines of, well, this other actor, who I'm not going to name, brags about having so much free time because he doesn't have kids, and that is just like a bleak life. And the way people reacted to that statement is just, he's a little boy. He has these strong opinions about things he has no business having strong opinions about publicly. Like, keep it to yourself, just do your job, and move on.
He is kind of, speaking of chronically online, he is kind of, we have no, this goes for everyone, not just Timothy Chalamet. We have no privacy anymore. Exactly what you said. Like, if he has that opinion, whatever. Like, people can have their opinions about whatever they want, no judgment. But, 20 years ago, we weren't hearing, like, Brad Pitt's every single thought at every moment of the day. Maybe, you'd read a tabloid and find out he ate chicken salad. And you're like, oh my gosh, Brad loves chicken salad. And it might not even be remotely true. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now everyone is so, we don't need to hear everyone's opinions every single day, 24 hours a day. Although I will say, I don't know what he was promoting. It must have been last year. He went on Narwhal and And I'm pretty sure this was last year. I don't think he was promoting Marty Supreme yet. Or if he was promoting Marty Supreme. Pardon me?
Bob Dylan.
Yes, it was the Bob Dylan. Yeah. See, like, everyone loved him when he was promoting the Bob Dylan movie. And then, yeah, the discourse was, like, very positive. He's so endearing. He's one of us. Blah, 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 blah. All this stuff. And then this year it just has completely shifted. And I think that's... I mean, this is complete speculation. Obviously, I have no idea. But we're seeing across the award shows Marty Supreme not winning anything. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's because part of the problem was that the promotion tour kind of went south somewhere.
Yeah. Yep. Oh my gosh. Wait, sorry. This totally relates. I listened to Katie's and your episode last week when she was reviewing Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. And now this conversation is making me think about Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie ripped off a Marty Supreme poster because the creators so Matt Johnson and Jay McCarroll were accidentally CC'd on an email with an attachment that contained this Marty Supreme poster. And then
how would that even happen, Nicole?
They're not, and then Matt Johnson goes, we're not even the same production company. Like, they're A24 and we're Neon. I don't understand how this happened. And he goes, but we ripped them off so hard. And like, sure enough, the Nirvana band, the show, the movie poster is a ripoff of this like very specific, specialized Marty Supreme poster where he's riding on that orange ping pong ball. Uh-huh. Anyway.
What a small world. And I love that it's just two Canadian comedians who are like, we're whatever. What are they going to do? Come for us?
Oh my gosh. If they were going to be sued, they would have been sued for the entire content of the film. Literally. I mean, it's a minefield of opportunities to be sued by so many people.
But it's just this little Canadian comedy. No one's gonna, whatever. Let the Canadians do what the Canadians are gonna do. Which, I mean, I'm all in support as a Canadian. Let's rip as much as we can. All right. So, today's episode, compared to previous weeks with Mike not being away, because Mike's not here to cut me off, this episode will be a little bit shorter because I am bougie and I'm getting my family photos done today, and you're recovering from your Pokemon dance party. So, we should get into our movie reviews. Are you still, and this is one of the, and you heard me talk about this last week, Nicole, I can't read phonetically, and I haven't heard your movie name said out loud yet.
Great. So it's called Pillion.
Okay, is that a French word?
No, it's the name of a bike, the seat on the back of a motorcycle or a bicycle.
Okay, yeah, that checks out. That totally makes sense to me. Yeah. But are you sure it's not a French word? Pillion.
No, I don't. Well, it might be a French word, derived from a French word, but a pillion is a secondary pad, cushion, or seat behind the main seat or saddle or on a motorcycle or a moped. A passenger in this seat is said to ride pillion. Okay, there you go. Yeah. And again, totally makes sense for the content of the movie. You are going to be reviewing this, correct? That's correct. Oh my gosh, The Guardian, listen to this headline. 50 Shades of BDSM, Wallace and Gromit. That must be, yeah. 50 Shades of BDSM, Wallace and Gromit, and Brilliant Bromley Biker Romance. Are they saying the leads are like Wallace and Gromit? I don't know. I don't think I've watched Wallace and Gromit. Enough to, it's a claymation. Describe the characters. It's a British... It's by the same people. Okay, well, one's a bald man and Gromit's a dog. Okay. Oh, yes. They did Chicken Run. It's like the Chicken Run production house. That's weird. Okay, that's quite the headline. Without reading the review, that's quite the headline. And it actually makes kind of a little bit of sense since you said one guy is... bald? And the other one's a dog? And then the other guy's a dog. And, It just makes so much sense. Well, okay. Let me get into it. Is it okay if I get into it?
Yes, please do.
Right. Okay. So this movie, Pillion, just for I just want to preface this movie and my review and my discussion of it. And if you would like to see this movie, it's quite graphic. It does deal with the queer community, the BDSM community.
Yeah, let's pause here, Nicole, and say, because we at one time we did have younger listeners. So this so, if you have younger children, pause this review and come back and listen to it later, because I think even just the content warnings, Nicole, even without getting into like explicits, we probably should have done that for Baby Girl too. But this is not a kids movie by any stretch of the imagination, correct?
That's correct. But it is a little bit of a comedy. So
that's the best kind, an adult comedy.
Yeah, exactly. So I think one review casually referred to it as a dom-com.
Oh.
Which is very funny. So just keep that in mind going in. So the IMDb logline, Pillion came out in 2025 and did a whole festival run and is now out in the theater. The logline is, a directionless man is swept off his feet when an enigmatic and possibly handsome biker takes him on as his submissive. Now, that's it. That's really sums it up beautifully, nicely. It is a movie that is also based on a book. And the book is called Box Hill by Adam Mars Jones, which takes place in the queer biker community of the 1970s. And what is really, really sweet about this movie is that there are a lot of members of the UK and Europe's Gay Bikers Motorcycle Club that were involved in the movie, and you will be able to see them as BG and additional characters. So this movie a lot of care was put into this movie to make sure the representation of all of these communities, well, one specific community, is as accurate and respectful, which is so beautiful. It's a gorgeous romance. You will laugh, you will cry. You might not cry. I cried, but I'm just an old softie.
I've seen it described as, it would be more accurate to actually call this a coming of age story.
That's such a good description. It is. And do you know what's wild is I do feel like the biggest demographic of folks who are going to see this movie age-wise are going to have grown up watching Harry Potter. And what is so funny is, so the two leads, one of the leads is Alexander Skarsgård, who is just a very handsome man. And then
I would also say he's talented.
Oh, 100%. In this context, it's important that he's handsome.
Yes. It's I would say it's probably a plot point. Would you not?
Yeah, I would absolutely say that. Yes. And then the lead, who is basically coming of age, is Harry Melling. Now, if that name is not familiar, you'll probably recognize his face. He is Dudley Dursley in the Harry Potter movies. So little Dudley Dursley is getting up to no good. And
can I interject real quick, Nicole?
Yeah.
So I saw a headline being like, "Oh, Dudley Dursley's all grown up." Was he not in the Queen's Gambit? Because that's how I recognize his face.
I didn't watch the Queen's Gambit, but I think what maybe the headline is referring to is the content of being grown up content. Right. Got
it. And not like, yes, he was in The Pale Blue Eye, which I reviewed, The Devil All the Time, which I reviewed, going back, and then The Queen's Gambit. And then he was also in The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, and then the Harry. So that's like, I know him from his adult career. I did not put two and two together.
Yeah, it took me a while. I was like, this man's face looks so familiar. And,
It's quite striking. It's an unusual face, I would say.
yeah, which makes it, I mean, both of them are very striking looking, which makes them like a very, a striking couple. I don't know. They were just great to look at. Again, doesn't seem like it would be important, but in this context, it definitely is. And it's just a really beautiful, and it becomes a little sad portrayal of love and longing and growing up and changing and seeing your parents, or having your parents see you change and have them, you know, give their opinions on your change and what kind of conversations that brings up and what kind of dynamics that creates. And I thought it was just absolutely beautiful. And one additional thing I would like to share is, as y'all probably know, Alexander Skarsgård's, he's, I say this with love, he's a Nepo baby, but he's the kind that is talented. And
what were we calling that for a while in the show? Nepo baby versus like legacy artist. We would consider him a legacy artist.
Yes. So I guess his dad, Stellan Skarsgård,
huge.
Yeah, he was asked about seeing his son as, you know,
explicitly a dom.
Yeah, a BDSM leather community member in Pillion, and his reply is absolutely incredible. Quote, "I have no problem seeing him do BDSM. That's not a problem. If he acts badly, I have big problems." Unquote.
I love that.
I love it. I love it. And just to, I know we're a little short on time, I'm just going to skip right to, again, caveat. If you are not into all of these things and not into seeing them in film, maybe don't see it. But if you want to see a coming of age story that is a little bit more explicit and a little bit more nuanced and that represents a community that has for years been kind of villainized in media, I think this is a see it.
Yeah, that it sounds like an interesting one. I love Alexander Skarsgård, and I think that Henry, what's his last name? Melling. I have found him quite good in what I've seen him in as an adult. So it's getting really good buzz. People are saying it's very funny, very sweet, but I think you're right, Nicole, with kind of, and my understanding is that it's maybe more explicit than other recent movies dealing with like similar content or dynamics, or am I wrong? Like, are you?
No, you are 100% right. There is,
they go full on,
and apparently they went fuller on and they cut a bunch of stuff. And what we have is pretty full on. So,
okay. Yeah. So take that as you will when you are purchasing your movie tickets. This is definitely a see it for you, correct?
100%. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to do something a little bit controversial, which I probably have only done this like a handful of times over the last 8 years. I'm going to review a movie that Mike has already reviewed. I try to avoid that, listeners, because I like to give you new reviews every week, whether it's like a movie we haven't reviewed before or a brand new movie. So Mike did review this. I believe he reviewed it in the summertime. I think enough time has lapsed. It's okay that I'm reviewing this. And I'm reviewing it because it is the top, from what I've read and what I'm hearing in the buzz, it's the top Oscar contender, Nicole. Can you guess what I'm reviewing?
Well, I feel like I know what you're reviewing.
Can you guess for our listeners?
Oh, could it be, Sinners?
Yes. It is Ryan Coogler. Ryan Coogler's Sinners. Mike raved about this movie when he saw it. I want to say it came out in the summertime, Nicole. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah. It was definitely like if not like midsummer, then late summer.
Which is interesting that it's interesting for a lot of reasons why this is being nominated for an Oscar. Not because it shouldn't be, but because historically how the Oscars run, I guess you can say. So interesting that it's a summer release. I would argue that it's even like a summer blockbuster, like a very traditional popcorn movie. So that's also kind of unusual for the Oscars. And it's a horror movie. And we don't see a ton. It's not completely unheard of. I think The Exorcist, for instance, was nominated for a bunch of stuff when it came out. I could be wrong. But typically, horror movies are historically snubbed, and people are quite upset with it. Hereditary in recent memory. I personally, Nicole.
I know.
Yes. I won't get too much into it, but even like, oh, Toni Collette was so snubbed. No. Watch Possession, and then you'll see an actually good horror lead actress. But anyways, I know that is very, my opinions on Hereditary are very controversial, but this is coming from a person who watches horror movies and has watched horror movies since I was like 13. And so to act like Toni Collette's doing something new, please. She stands on the shoulders of giants. Anyways.
Yes.
So all that to say. Sinners, wow. And of course your Weapons, which Mike also reviewed in the summertime and definitely liked. It also is getting a ton of buzz. So this year's a little bit different for the Oscars.
I would say it's like also The Substance got a bunch of nominations last year, if you remember, which is a body horror. So we're coming around very, very slowly.
I think probably. Again, this is pure speculation. I always want to it probably goes without saying, Nicole, but in this climate, I feel like you have to. I don't have a crystal ball or unique insight. These are just my own ideas and my own opinions. But I speculate that as the Academy, in a way, gets younger, like they always skew older, but like as like the staunch traditionalists pass away and their seats, and they've also expanded the Academy in recent years, so I think that they are trying for diversity. I expect that more quote unquote like popular movies will start making it into the Oscars just like naturally because of demographics. But yeah, this is an interesting year. Sinners, Weapons, like you said, Substance the year before. So this, I thought, because this is in my guess, I will be shocked if it doesn't play out this way. Sinners is considered the top movie this year. Do you think I'm talking out of my butt, or does that sound right based on what you're hearing in LA?
No, it's absolutely correct. And I will also say, like, it cleaned up at the Actor Awards, what were formerly known as the SAG Awards. I believe they won quite a few. And my girl Amy Madigan won. So that is
For Weapons.
For Weapons, yes. So it's going to be a very interesting and exciting race.
We'll see. So when Mike reviewed this movie, he was adamant, Nicole. He's like, I don't want to give anything away. You want to go in this movie completely fresh. And I thought that was insane that he took that opinion, because to me, it's very obvious what kind of movie this is based on the promotion. So if you have yet to see Sinners, if you want to be completely surprised because apparently you live under a rock and have not seen any promotion or discourse about this movie, pause now and then come back later, because I am going to talk to Nicole about a major plot point, which again, I feel is very obvious. So pause now. Okay, now everyone else who's still listening, Sinners is a vampire movie. Mike did not want to disclose that in the summertime, Nicole.
It's obvious in the trailers.
Allegedly, he saw a different trailer that does not show that they're vampires. And so he's like, I want people to go in and like be surprised by this. But I feel like in the first, because when you see the Native American vampire hunters, it's like, and that happens in what, like the first 15, 20 minutes of the movie?
Yeah, probably like 20 to 30, yeah.
I love vampire movies. So, like, I'm very familiar with vampire tropes. Even if I didn't see the trailer with it, once I saw the Native American vampire hunters, I would have known this was a vampire movie. So I personally feel like Mike's caginess around this was unwarranted. But whatever. Was this an effective vampire movie? Definitely. Which also, I would say, like, a vampire movie being nominated for Best Picture, that's pretty unusual. I would have to go back and see, like, was Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula nominated?
I think Interview with a Vampire was nominated.
Well, that movie is flawless. So that I don't get a lot of opportunities to talk about that movie, but that is one of Taylor's favorite movies. Okay. Again, we're running out of time, so I'll try to be quick. Yes, this was an effective. I would say this is an effective period piece. This takes place in interwar Southern America. So where Jim Crow is still very much happening and shaping the lives of African Americans in the South. And we also, it's a very interesting, which I found fascinating. We also see the effects of post-World War I. So to me, this is it worked as a period piece. It worked as a vampire movie. I have one gripe, Nicole, and I know this is going to be controversial, but maybe you'll agree with me. They made some editing choices to me that, and I don't know if editing would be the right word. You can correct me if I'm wrong. The way that they split, so the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie, and it might have even happened like kind of in the middle of the movie. I think it did. They would splice past scene, like things that happened in the past into the present, kind of like a montage. I would say that's like editing, right? Mm-hmm. Story construction. Mm-hmm. I found it so corny. I hated those scenes. I don't think you needed them. I don't think you needed them emotionally, narratively, tonally. And so when it opened with like, it did like a very classic trope where like, I guess you could say like you're in present time. And then like the movie is like all the events leading up to the opening scene.
Yeah.
To me, I'm like, wow, what am I watching? A movie from 1998? I'm like, this is the movie that people are raving about. I don't know. Maybe that's, I have not, because everything I've heard about this movie is sinners, 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 amazing, amazing, amazing. That is not, I will agree. This movie was very well crafted. And I think it was effective on multiple levels. I think the performances were really great. They're getting a lot of buzz, even for the ensemble cast. I thought the casting was excellent. I don't know if you needed Michael B. Jordan to play twins. I think I've been thinking a lot about that because I saw a couple movies this year where one actor has been playing twins. And I'm like, are you saving budget? Like, why are you doing this? I guess because they're like, the twins have a special connection and they can't live without each other. I think you could still have done that with brothers and they didn't have to be twins. Anyways, by and large, I would say this movie is hyper effective. I just didn't like these sort of like flashback stuff. And I felt like I don't know, it felt like a movie from a different time, but maybe he was trying to do that. Ryan Coogler. Mm-hmm. Do you think I'm insane?
To be quite honest, I didn't realize what you meant until you talked about the beginning scene. So you're like, the gripe is with the framing, like the story framing?
The story framing, but there's also like there's moments in the movie where like the action, so like take the end scene for instance, and like the post-credits scene. And he's like, it was the best day of my life. And then they like went back and showed scenes. Oh. And I think they did that. I'm pretty sure they did that like at other times in the movie, but I could be wrong. But definitely like the beginning and the end where like, yeah, because I think that even happened in the opening scene where like he like goes to his father's church and you see flashbacks to like the what do you call that? Like the climax, like the fight scenes. and they're like edited into that scene. And I'm like, you don't need that. Also, you're giving things away. I want to be in wonder why he's like bloody stumbling into this church. Although I don't even think they needed to frame the movie with that scene. So like there was like that stuff, these like flashback scenes within, and then the framing. It didn't work for me. I thought it was corny. That's what it felt like to me.
Okay. I didn't notice, but listen, everybody has their thing. Did you notice the aspect ratio shifting during the movie?
No, so that's not something that I would have clocked. And I also watched it on my phone.
And that's wild that you didn't notice it, especially on a smaller screen, because it's just like very jarring.
No, I get when would it have happened? Do you think that's a technical failure, or they did that on purpose?
No, they definitely did it on purpose, because I remember watching it with Missy and I was like, did you see this? Did you see? It shifted. And she didn't notice either. But then I looked it up, and sure enough, there's these two aspect ratios that the film uses, 2.761 to 1, and then 1.43 to 1. And it's basically, it goes like wide and then not wide to tonal shifts and like scenic shifts. So
okay.
I mean, I thought that was the most impressive, coolest thing. But yeah, it's interesting that you number one didn't notice, and number two that you didn't like the flashback stuff. I didn't even notice that. It's so funny, we're picking up on different things.
I know, and like the things that you care about in a movie like are very particular to the person. We've run out of time, but there's one other thing that I want to talk about. I love a movie. I'm not like, I wouldn't describe myself as like a music lover, but like I love music. Like we have music like always playing in our house, like whether it's like YouTube or old, we literally have like from tapes, records, CDs, like we typically always have some kind of music media playing in our house. And our house very much likes Irish folk music, and that does factor into the movie. But like music in general is like very instrumental in this movie. I didn't mean that as a pun, but music plays a huge part of this movie. I really like that. I like when music is part of a movie. It's not a musical by any stretch of the imagination, but music plays such an important part, and it's a real mix of music. You have traditional Irish folk music, and then there's also blues music is huge in this movie. So soundtrack, music, the way they use music, loved it. My only critique is more like a little bit of a gripe, but it's like a personal gripe, was the flashback and the framing. I don't think the average moviegoer will be annoyed by that. I think that's just like a me problem. All that to say, this is a see it for me. I'm going to be really surprised if it doesn't clean up at the Oscars, only because it's getting so much buzz. It's doing really well at the other award shows, and it's a good, dare I say, fun. It's a fun movie.
Totally, though.
It does deal with some difficult subject matter just because of the African American experience in the South at this time. And again, that is very informative to the narrative. But yeah, it was a good movie, and it's a vampire movie. So obviously I'm going to say go see it, because I love vampires. Once again, last thing I just have to talk about, just to remind you, please go to the Soul One Arts .ca/podcast website so that you can fill out your Oscar ballots, because the Oscars are this weekend by the time this episode airs. So we will see how well they do. Thank you so much, Nicole. I really appreciate you coming on, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, catching up on your sleep.
Thank you so much.
Go see some movies.
Thank you for listening to You Had Me at Skip It, a Soul One Arts Inc. podcast. This podcast is produced by Mike Shepard and Austin Spinner Summer. It is a project of Soul One Arts Inc. To learn more about Soul One and all the great work that Soul One is doing in the arts community, especially in film, theater, and other performing arts, visit soul1arts.ca. You can contribute to this podcast by visiting soul1arts.ca and going to the podcast tab. You'll find all the information on You Had Me at Skip It and how you can get your questions read on air each week. Thank you again for listening.